I don't know why I agreed to it. Maybe it was the way Emily looked at me, her green eyes wide with excitement, or the way Sam always made camping sound like an adventure. But there I was, deep in the Pine Grove woods, with only the light of our campfire flickering against the towering trees. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and damp earth. It was just the three of us, me, Emily, and Sam. We'd parked miles back, hiked for hours until our feet throbbed, and now we were sitting around a fire, wrapped in old hoodies, telling ghost stories. Sam loved this stuff. The darker, the better. He leaned in close, a smirk on his face, telling us a story about some madman who supposedly used to live in these woods. "Cut it out, Sam," Emily muttered, her voice shaky. I could tell she was spooked, but she didn't want to show it. "Why, scared," Sam teased, but his voice had a nervous edge. I felt it too. The woods were too quiet. No wind, no rustling leaves, not even a distant hoot of an owl. Just silence. And then, a crack. Loud, like a branch snapping in half. We all froze. My eyes darted to the trees. "Probably just an animal," I whispered, more to myself than to them. But then I saw the way Emily's face had drained of color, her eyes wide as saucers, staring at something beyond the firelight. "What is it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She didn't answer. She just pointed. I turned, my heart pounding in my chest, and that's when I saw him, a figure standing just at the edge of the light, his silhouette blending with the shadows. He was tall, lanky, wearing what looked like a dirty coat. His face, I couldn't make out his face. "Hello," Sam called out, but his voice trembled. The figure didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there watching. The fire crackled louder, like it was feeding off our fear. Emily's breathing grew ragged, her hand gripping my arm. "We need to go," she whispered. I nodded, and Sam started to gather our stuff, hands shaking. The figure took a step forward, then another. My pulse raced. "Now!" I yelled, grabbing Emily's hand, yanking her up. We stumbled through the darkness, the trees scraping against our arms. I could hear Sam right behind us panting, but I could also hear him, the crunch of leaves, the snap of twigs. He was following us, getting closer. "Over here!" I hissed, pulling them toward a cluster of boulders. We ducked behind them, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I could see Sam's eyes darting around, wild with fear. "What the hell was that?" he whispered, his voice barely a breath. Emily shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. I don't know. We waited, listening. The footsteps stopped. Silence again. Then, a sound. A low, raspy breathing, like someone sucking air through their teeth. My blood ran cold. I peered around the boulder, and there he was, standing just a few feet away. His face, I could see it now. His skin was pale, stretched tight over his skull, eyes hollow and black, his mouth twisted into a grin that didn't look human. He moved fast, too fast. He lunged, and I grabbed a rock, throwing it with all my strength. It hit him in the shoulder, but he didn't flinch. Sam was up in a flash, swinging a branch, screaming, "Run!" We took off, sprinting through the trees, dodging branches. Emily stumbled, and I caught her before she hit the ground. "Keep going," I shouted. Then, I heard it. A sickening thud. I turned back. Sam was on the ground, his leg caught in a root. He looked up, eyes wide with terror as the man towered over him. "Help!" he screamed. I wanted to go back to help him, but Emily tugged on my arm. "We can't. He's coming." Sam's scream tore through the air, cut short by a wet, crunching sound. I felt sick. Emily sobbed, but we kept running, pushing through the pain, the fear. We broke through the trees, reaching the road. Emily collapsed, gasping for air. I turned back, looking for any sign of Sam. Nothing. Just the woods, dark and silent. We have to get help," I panted. Emily nodded, her face pale, tears streaked with dirt. I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking so hard I could barely dial, but before I could hit call, I heard it again. that raspy breathing. Closer now. I turned. There he was, standing on the edge of the road, that twisted grin still plastered on his face. He raised his hand, and I saw it, a piece of fabric. Sam's jacket. "Run!" I screamed, grabbing Emily. We bolted down the road, his footsteps echoing behind us, getting louder, closer. I don't know how long we ran. Hours, minutes, time blurred. My legs burned, lungs felt like they were on fire, but we couldn't stop. I knew if we stopped, he'd catch us. I could see headlights in the distance, a car approaching. "Over here!" I yelled, waving my arms frantically. The car screeched to a stop and we threw ourselves inside. "What the hell happened to you kids?" the driver asked, eyes wide with shock. "Go! Just go!" I shouted. The car sped off, leaving the dark woods behind. I glanced back, expecting to see him standing there, watching us. But there was nothing. Just trees, silent and still. I started to breathe, the tension finally releasing. Emily clutched my arm, her hands ice cold, her body trembling. The driver kept glancing at us in the rearview mirror, his brow furrowed with concern. And then, a loud bang. The car lurched violently to the side, and we skidded off the road, crashing hard into a tree. My head slammed into the window. Everything went black for a second. When I opened my eyes, there was smoke. The driver was slumped over the wheel, blood trickling down his face. Emily was beside me, her eyes half open, groaning in pain. I tried to move, but my leg was pinned under the dashboard. Then I heard it, closer than ever. That raspy breathing. My blood ran cold. I looked up and saw him through the shattered windshield, his dark figure moving toward us. Slow, deliberate, like he had all the time in the world. He reached the car, that twisted grin even wider now, eyes dark pits of nothingness. He raised his hand, a gleam of metal catching the moonlight. And that's when I realized there was nowhere left to run.